That money was a gift, Dad. My son's voice cracked through the phone speaker. Sharp and defensive, I sat at my kitchen table. The lawyer's documents spread in front of me like evidence at a crime scene. My hands were shaking, not from anger, not yet. From disbelief, because right there, on page 3, was his signature, clear as day, acknowledging the loan, promising repayment, and I realized in that moment this wasn't about money. Any more underscore, my name is Robert, I'm 62 years old. A retired electrician from Ohio, and for most of my life, I thought I'd done everything right. I worked 40-hour weeks that turned into 60-hour weeks. I saved, I sacrificed, I put my son, Derek, through college without a single student loan. Hanging over his head, I wanted him to have what I never did, a clean start. I grew up poor. Really poor, the kind of poor where you wore the same pair of shoes until the soles fell off, where dinner was sometimes just bread and butter because that's all we had. My father worked in a factory, came home exhausted every night and told me one thing over and over: education is the only way out. Bobby, remember that. I didn't go to college, couldn't afford it. Instead, I went to trade school, learned electrical work, and built a decent life from nothing. But I promised myself if I ever had kids, they'd have it better. Derek was that promise kept. Derek graduated with a business degree in 2015. Bright kid, charismatic, the kind of guy who could sell ice to an Eskimo. As they say, he had this energy about him, this confidence that made you believe he was going somewhere. His mother, Linda, would have been so proud. Linda died when Derek was 12, breast cancer. It came fast and took her faster. I still remember the last thing she said to me in the hospital, her hand barely able to squeeze mine: take care of our boy, Rob, make sure he knows he's loved. I held on to that through the grief, through the lonely nights, through every parent-teacher conference I attended alone. I became both mother and father. I learned to braid hair for school pictures. I learned to talk about feelings even when it made me uncomfortable. Derek was everything to me, and maybe that was the problem. It started in 2017. Derek called me one evening in March. I remember because it was raining, one of those cold, steady rains that makes you want to stay inside with a book and a cup of tea. I was doing exactly that when my phone buzzed. Hey, Dad, he said. His voice had that edge to it, nervous excitement. What's up, son? I've got an opportunity. I set my tea down, the steam curled up between us, even though he was miles away. What kind of opportunity? A business venture. A buddy of mine from college, Tyler, you remember him? He's starting a tech company, app development, digital marketing, all that cutting-edge stuff. It's going to be huge. Dad, but we need startup capital. I leaned back in my chair. I'd heard this kind of talk before. Everyone's got the next big idea. Most of them go nowhere. How much are we talking? I asked carefully. There was a pause, just long enough to make my stomach drop. 50,000. The number hung in the air like smoke. $50,000. That was a decent chunk of my retirement savings, money I'd been putting aside for emergencies, for health care. For the future, I wasn't sure how long I had. I was already living on a fixed income, Social Security, and a small pension. Every dollar mattered. Derek, that's a lot. I know. Dad, I know, but this is it. This is my shot. Tyler's already got investor interest. We've got a prototype. We just need this final push to really launch. His voice was pleading now, desperate. Almost, I wouldn't ask if I wasn't sure. You know that. There was a pause. I could hear him breathing on the other end. Waiting. I'll pay you back, he said with interest. I promise we'll draw up a contract and everything. It'll be official. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain tap against the window. My mind kept drifting back to Derek as a kid, the way he used to climb into my lap after dinner and ask me to read him stories, the way he'd help me in the garage on weekends, handing me tools even when he didn't know what they were for. I thought about Linda. What would she say? She'd always been the practical one, the one who balanced my softness with her strength. You can't save him from everything, Rob. She used to tell me, sometimes people need to figure things out on their own. But this felt different. This wasn't about saving him. This was about giving him a chance, wasn't it? 2 weeks later, I met Derek at a cafe downtown. It was one of those trendy places with exposed brick and overpriced coffee. Derek was already there when I arrived. Sitting at a corner table with his laptop open and papers spread out, he looked good, confident, like a real businessman. "Hey, Dad." He stood up and hugged me. "Thanks for coming." We sat down, and he immediately slid a document across the table. "This is the loan agreement," he said. "Tyler's lawyer helped us draft it. Everything's official, $50,000. To be repaid within 5 years, with 3% interest. Annually, you'll get every penny back, plus extra." I picked up the paper and read through it slowly. My reading glasses kept sliding down my nose. The language was formal. Legal. It outlined payment schedules, interest calculations, default clauses. It looked legitimate, professional. "You really think this is going to work?" I asked, looking up at him. His eyes lit up, that same spark I'd seen when he was a kid talking about his dreams. "I know it will. Dad, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky thing. We've done the research. We've got the market analysis. Tech is booming right now. This is the future." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. I pulled out my pen. "Where do I sign?" The money transferred 3 days later. $50,000 gone from my account in seconds. Derek called me that night, his voice full of gratitude. "You won't regret this. Dad, I swear this is going to change everything. I believe you, son." And I really did. For the first year, things seemed fine. Derek would call every few weeks with updates. The company was growing. They'd landed their first client, some local business that needed a marketing app. They were developing a new platform. They'd hired 2 employees. He sounded happy, busy, but happy. "We're right on track," he'd say. "This time next year, I'll start making payments. You'll see." I believed him. But then the calls started getting shorter. "Hey, Dad, can't talk long. Just wanted to check in. Everything okay?" I'd ask, Yeah, just swamped with work. You know how it is." "I understand. Hey, maybe we can grab dinner this weekend?" "Maybe I'll text you." He never texted by the second year. I hadn't seen him in 8 months. I tried not to worry. He was building a business that takes time, that takes sacrifice, but something felt off. I'd see his social media posts. Pictures from restaurants I couldn't afford, a new car, some sleek black sedan, vacation photos from Miami, the beach glittering behind him, and every time I thought about asking about the loan, something stopped. May didn't want to be that dad, the one who couldn't let go, the one who treated his son like a debtor instead of family. So I stayed quiet. In 2019, I finally brought it up. We were having lunch at his apartment, one of those modern lofts downtown with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that probably costs 3 times my mortgage. I looked around while Derek microwaved some leftover Chinese food. Expensive furniture, a flat-screen TV that took up half the wall, artwork that actually looked like it came from a gallery. Nice place. I said, "Thanks. Finally, feels like I'm getting somewhere, you know." We sat down at his kitchen island. The food was cold in the middle, but I didn't say anything, so I said, keeping my tone light, "How's the business doing?" "Good," he said, scrolling through his phone. "Good enough to start thinking about repayment?" His thumb stopped moving. He looked up at me, and for just a second I saw something flash across his face. Annoyance? Guilt? "Dad, come on, startups take time. We're reinvesting everything right now. Every dollar goes back into growth." "I understand that. I'm just asking when we can start talking about a timeline." "I don't know. Soon." That word "soon" would haunt me for the next 3 years. By 2021. I'd asked 4 more times each time. Derek had an excuse. The pandemic hit their revenue. They lost a major client. They were pivoting to a new market. They had to lay off staff. They were rebuilding. Always something. But here's the thing. I started noticing other stuff. A newer car designer clothes. A post from Aspen, skiing. Another from some resort in the Bahamas. And every time I brought up the loan, he got defensive. "Why are you so obsessed with this?" He snapped once during a tense phone call. "It's like you don't even trust me." "It's not about trust, Derek. It's about the agreement we made." "Yeah, well, maybe I didn't realize my own father would treat me like some kind of debtor. I thought family was supposed to support each other." That stung. "I did support you. I gave you $50,000. And I'm grateful, but you act like I'm not going to pay you back, like I'm some kind of criminal." "I never said that. You didn't have to." The line went quiet for a long moment. "Look," he finally said, His voice softer. I'm doing the best I can you just trust me, please? What could I say to that? Okay, I whispered. Okay. In early 2023, I found out the truth. A mutual friend, Gary, someone who'd worked with Derek briefly, let it slip over coffee one Saturday morning. We were talking about work, about life, and Derek's name came up. You know, the company folded, right? Gary said casually, stirring his coffee. I almost choked on mine. What? Yeah, like 2 years ago, the whole thing fell apart. Tyler took off to California, and Derek's been doing freelance consulting ever since. Actually doing pretty well from what I hear, got some big clients. My blood went cold. 2 years. Been lying to me for 2 years. I sat in my car in that parking lot for 20 minutes. Just staring at nothing. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. He lied. My son looked me in the eye. Month after month, and lied. I confronted him that night. My hands were shaking as I dialed his number. It rang 4 times before he picked up. Hey, Dad, what's up? Why didn't you tell me the company failed? Silence, long, heavy silence. What are you talking about? His voice was careful now, guarded. I ran into Gary today. He told me everything shut down 2 years ago. More silence. Derek? Because I knew you'd freak out, he finally said. His voice was defensive, almost angry. I knew you'd panic and make it into this whole thing. Make it into a thing? Derek, I gave you $50,000. I had a right to know what happened to it. It's not like I spent it all on myself. Dad, I was trying to build something. It didn't work out. That's business. Sometimes things fail. That's not the point? Then what is the point? His voice rose now. That you want your money back? Fine, I'll pay you back when I can. When? I don't know. That's not good enough, Derek. Well, it's going to have to be. Because that's all I've got right now. My heart was pounding. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I gave you everything. I said quietly, your whole life. I gave you everything I had, and you can't even be honest with me? Don't do that. Don't make this about what? About trust? About respect. I'm hanging up. Derek? The line went dead. I sat there in my kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone, and something inside me broke. Not anger, not sadness, clarity. That's when I hired a lawyer. I didn't want to. God, I didn't want to. The idea of suing my own son made me physically sick, but I'd given him 5 years, and every opportunity to make things right. Her name was Margaret Chun, mid-50s. Sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. Her office smelled like old books and coffee. Tell me everything, she said, pulling out a legal potty. Did the whole story, the loan agreement, the promises, the lies. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she looked up at me. You have a strong case, she said. The loan agreement is ironclad. You have documentation, bank records, email correspondence where he acknowledges the debt if he refuses to pay. We can absolutely take him to court. I felt sick. He's my son, I said quietly. She nodded slowly, her expression softened just a little. I understand, but sometimes family takes advantage precisely because they think they can, because they think blood protects them from consequences. She slid a tissue box across the desk toward me. Hadn't realized I was crying. I gave Derek one last chance. Margaret drafted a formal demand letter, outlining the debt, the timeline, and a final deadline, 6 months to begin structured repayment, or I would file a lawsuit. To send it certified mail. Derek signed for it on a Tuesday afternoon. 2 weeks passed, nothing. Then, on a Sunday morning, my phone buzzed. A text message. That money was a gift. Dad, you gave it to me because you wanted to help. You can't sue me for a gift. This is insane. I stared at that message for 10 minutes. A gift after everything, after the paperwork, the promises, the signed agreement, the years of waiting. He was going to pretend it was a gift. I forwarded the text to Margaret. Her response came within an hour. File the lawsuit. I'll have the papers ready by Wednesday. We filed on March 15th, 2024. The process was surreal. Forms and affidavits and depositions. Legal language that made my head spin. Margaret walked me through everything, but it all felt like a bad dream. Are you sure you want to do this? She asked me one afternoon in her office. Once we go to court, there's no going back. Your relationship with your son will likely never be the same. I looked down at my hands, weathered, scarred from decades of electrical work, hands that had held Derek as a baby, hands that had helped him learn to ride a bike. "I know," I said, "but he's left me no choice." Derek's response came through his own lawyer. 3 weeks later, they were arguing emotional duress, that I had coerced him into signing the loan agreement, that it was actually a gift given out of parental love and obligation, and that I was now trying to manipulate legal documents to extract money from my own son. It was absurd, but it hurt more than I can explain. The months leading up to trial were hell. I barely slept. I'd lie awake at night, replaying every memory, every Little League game I'd attended, every birthday party, every time I'd told him I was proud of him. Where did it go wrong? Was it my fault? Had I spoiled him? Had I taught him that love meant always saying yes? Or had I just failed to see who he really was? We went to court in September 2024. I'll never forget walking into that courtroom, the smell of old wood and stale air, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the rows of empty benches that made everything feel cold and impersonal, and Derek sitting across the aisle with his lawyer, wearing a suit I'd never seen before. His jaw was set, his eyes fixed forward. He didn't look at me once, not when I walked in, not when I sat down, not when the judge entered the room. It was like I didn't exist. The trial lasted 2 days. Margaret presented the loan agreement, bank records showing the $50,000 transfer, email chains where Derek explicitly referred to it as a loan text, messages asking for extensions, promises to pay soon. His lawyer argued that I had pressured him, that he felt obligated because I was his father, that the loan agreement was just a formality to make me feel better, but that we both understood it was really a gift. On the witness stand, Derek testified that I had always held money over his head, that I made him feel guilty for needing help, that he signed the agreement because he was afraid I'd cut him off otherwise. I listened to my son lie under oath, and I felt something inside me die. On the second day I took the stand, Margaret asked me to describe my relationship with Derek, to talk about raising him alone after Linda died, to explain why I gave him the money. I wanted to help him, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to give him a chance at something. I never had. I trusted him. And did you ever indicate that this money was a gift? Margaret asked. No, never. We had a signed agreement. He promised to pay me back multiple times. How do you feel now? I looked across the room at Derek. He was staring down at the table. Betrayed. I said, I feel betrayed by the person I loved most in the world. When the verdict came, I felt nothing. The judge ruled in my favor. The loan agreement was legally binding. Derek's claims of emotional duress were unfounded and unsupported by evidence. $50,000. Principal $30,000 in accrued interest over 7 years. $100,000. In punitive damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and what the judge called willful misrepresentation. $180,000 total. Derek's face went pale. His lawyer whispered something to him, but he just sat there, frozen. The judge scheduled a payment plan, wage garnishment, monthly installments. Oversight. It was over. I waited for Derek to look at me, to say something. Anything. He didn't. Stood up, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked out of the courtroom without a single glance in my direction. That was the last time I saw him. It's been 8 months now. The money comes in every month like clockwork, quartered. Wage garnishment, $2,500 a month for the next 6 years. I don't even look at the statements anymore. I put them in a folder in my desk drawer and try not to think about them because I didn't win. Not really. I got my money back. Sure, but I lost my son. People ask me sometimes if I regret, if I wish I'd just let it go, forgiven the debt, kept the peace, and honestly, I don't know. Some days I think I should have that money. Isn't worth losing your child over, but other days I think about the lies, the manipulation, the way he looked at me in that courtroom like I was the villain, and I realize I didn't lose my son in that courtroom. I lost him years ago. I just didn't want to see. I've learned something through all of this. Love doesn't mean letting people take advantage of you. Boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary, and sometimes the people we sacrifice the most for are the ones who respect us the least. I spent my whole life trying to be the father my dad never was. Patient, generous, supportive, but somewhere along the way, I confused love with enabling, I confused support with surrender. I don't regret taking Derek to court. I regret that it had to come to that. I regret that my son became someone who could look me in the eye and lie. I regret that a piece of paper with a dollar amount on it is the only thing standing between us now, but I don't regret standing up for myself not anymore. Sometimes late at night, I still think about him. I wonder if he thinks about me. Toi, wonder if he tells people his side of the story, how his cruel father sued him over money. I wonder if he feels any guilt, any shame, any regret, or if he's moved on completely, convinced that he was the victim all along. Last month, I ran into someone who knows Derek. He's doing well. They said, got a new consulting gig, big contract. I just nodded. Do you ever talk to him? They asked carefully. No, I said, no, we don't talk. They looked uncomfortable, like they regretted bringing it up. I'm sorry, they said. I smiled sadly. Me too. I think about Linda sometimes, about what she'd say if she were here. I think she'd be heartbroken for both of us, but I also think she'd understand. You did what you had to do, Rob. I can almost hear her saying, you taught him that actions have consequences. That's love too. I hope she's right. I hope someday Derek understands that, but I'm not holding my breath. If you've ever struggled with setting boundaries, especially with family, I hope my story helped. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is the right thing. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes protecting yourself isn't selfish survival. I gave my son everything I had. He took it, and when I finally asked for basic respect in return, he called me greedy. That tells you everything you need to know. The money will be paid off in 2030. By then, I'll be 68 years old. I don't know where Derek will be, what he'll be doing, if he'll have a family of his own. I don't know if I'll ever hear from him again. Part of me hopes I will. Part of me knows I won't. And part of me has made peace with that. Boundaries aren't walls, dire bridges to respect, and if someone refuses to cross that bridge, that's their choice, not yours. If this story resonated with you, thank you for listening. Sometimes we need to hear that we're not alone in these painful decisions. Take care of yourself. You deserve respect, even from the people you love most.